Welcome to Vigorous Mindset. I'm Coach Steve. Let's discuss a couple things that are going to happen when you get bigger. But these are things you didn't really sign up for. So you signed up for the increased amount of muscle mass, the shredded look, the spider veins, all that freaky, dense, hard-earned muscle. But you're going to get a couple things along the road that you might not expect it. Starting with the first and most common unwanted thing that's going to happen as you gain size. Now, this isn't really an issue when you're drug-free and you try to get as much size as naturally possible without performance-enhancing drugs. But as soon as you start adding anabolic steroids, you're definitely going to get a significant amount of hair growth. You might also get hair loss, but we'll discuss that a little bit later. Hair growth is going to happen all over the body. Now, for the young guys that don't have so much facial hair yet, this might sound appealing. Take it from me, you don't get to choose where the hair growth is going to occur. So you might take anabolic steroids praying, fingers crossed, that you're going to get a nice, thick, masculine beard. But it might mean that you're only going to get hair on your back or on your chest, on your private legs, anywhere. You don't get to choose. Now, when you combine this with androgenetic alopecia, when people are predispositioned for hair loss, you can easily see that in your family. If your dad is bald or your uncle is bald from your mom's side or any of your grandparents are showing signs of balding, the anabolic steroids are definitely going to accelerate that. And what you'll get is a hair migration going from your hair of your scalp to other parts of the body. Now, luckily, I wasn't prone to that, but I do notice that after starting anabolic steroids, and regardless of what anabolic steroids that is, whether that's a moderate dose of testosterone or an insane amount of trenbolone, which I've stupidly done in the past, so we don't do that anymore. But I will admit that 1,000 milligrams of trenbolone put a lot of hair on my chest, but also on my back. And now that I haven't taken any trenbolone for maybe 7 years, 8 years already, I still have to deal with all this hair on my chest and my back. I think it just maintains there. It just stays there. And regardless of what compounds I used in the past, any anabolic steroid is going to accelerate hair growth all over the body, but might reduce it on the scalp. Unfortunately, again, you don't get to choose in your genetic makeup. So right now, I have to trim all the body hair, especially on my chest, because it gets itchy and prickly, right? So on my chest, I have to trim that every week. The rest of my body, I prefer to do that at the same time every week as well. But since I can't reach my back, and my wife isn't always around when I'm going through a trimming session, let's say I trim that every 2 weeks, but she's not as thorough as I am, so I make sure that all the hairs are clipped to a millimeter length. And sometimes she misses one on my back. And guess what happens? They keep growing and growing and growing longer and longer until one day you're at the gym. This might happen to you as well if you're surrounded with a lot of younger guys. You're at the gym, you're training back. Some guy comes up to you and says, "Oh, you have a nice white back, but what is this?" And they start pulling. It's very uncomfortable. I'll tell you that. It's something you really don't want, but it's something that's going to happen regardless of what compound you take. Hair growth is going to occur and you're going to have to deal with that. Before we move on, I'll tell you guys a funny story of what happened when I forgot to shave my back for maybe almost 4 months. So I was still trimming my upper body and everything else, privates, hair, etc. It was all nicely trimmed, beautiful from the front, but from the back, I completely forgot. And then I went to the beach and I took off my shirt and there was a little breeze and I could feel every hair. It must have been this long already. No, not this long. Let's say this long. After 4 months, it was about this long. I know, too many details. So I took my shirt off. There was a little breeze and I could feel all these hairs on my back move. It was the most nasty feeling ever. So again, guys, you're going to have to trim regularly or you get into a position like that where you take off your shirt and when there's a breeze, it's the most weird feeling ever. So if you do plan to go on cycle, besides buying the performance enhancing drugs, make sure you buy a clipper and a blood sugar meter and all that other stuff to stay healthy. But I feel that a clipper is pretty much mandatory when you're a bodybuilder. And as you gain size, you're going to have to trim all that body hair off so you can actually see the muscle. And it's not underneath a sweater. Basically, even though you take your shirt off, you're still wearing a sweater. It might be good for the off season, though. You get into that beer status. There's a market for that as well. But if you like to show what you got, you're going to have to trim frequently. Okay, let's move on to the next one. as you're getting bigger, your lats are going to get wider. Well, hopefully, unless you had the genetic lottery and you don't really have wide lats, and no matter what you do, whether that's side enhancement or crazy heavy T-bar rows, your lats are not growing, then this issue doesn't apply to you. But for the guys that do have wide lats, the most uncomfortable feeling, besides stumping your pinky toe against the dinner table, the most uncomfortable feeling ever is when your elbow ends up in the doorknob, because you're wider than you think you are. So if you're suffering from imaginary lat syndrome, okay, you're going to walk around like this all the time, right? It's completely silly. But even for the guys that have big lats and decently developed triceps, your arms are going to hang towards the side. Now, if you're a little bit careless, you walk around, you're in a hurry, the door is open, and then the doorknob goes straight into the elbow. And I've had this happen so many times. And honestly, it's not that bad when you get stuck in the doorknob, but when that happens with a door handle, especially one of those older ones with a little bit of a design and a pointy end, man, it's a blood work doesn't compare. That's the most holiday-like experience. And it's even worse when you're in a hurry and you collide with a pointy door handle. Needless to say, you won't be training any arms for a couple days after that. And I've had this happen several times. Unfortunately, also one time on arm day, you tried to train arms after that, and one side, it's not going to work. Your bicep attachment, your bicep tendons are completely messed up, and you get so much inflammation that you just need to take a day off. Or you train one arm per side and, call it a day. But you're basically putting yourself into one of those swings. So, again, this comes with gaining size. I've never had this happen when I was only 80 kilos, 85 kilos, and even though I was bodybuilding, as soon as I got up to 100 kilos or maybe even 110 kilos, those arms are going to flare out a little bit. It's not imaginary. I'm just letting them hang. And that doorknob and the door handle is my worst enemy. Another thing that will happen, which is kind of to be expected, is turning your wardrobe into a cabinet of ponchos. And there's no real way around it unless you try to stay within the medium to large range of clothes. But as soon as you get into the XLs, double XLs, or even triple XL clothes, your entire wardrobe will just turn into drapes or ponchos. And it's not really a big deal until you start ironing and you realize that your shirts are so big, it will take you forever just to iron one shirt. And another funny thing is that when you compare your laundry basket to your partner's, your girlfriend's laundry basket that is clearly not as big as you are, is that your laundry basket at the end of the week is overflowing. Overflowing. But hers is only half full. So you put your laundry in the machine. Sometimes it might not even fit. And you have to transfer a little bit of your laundry to her laundry. Hopefully that's not specifically underwear laundry, unless you're into that. I'll leave that up to you. The bigger you'll get, the bigger your clothes need to be. And the more cumbersome everything around and surrounding clothes is going to be as well. Whether that's laundry or shopping for clothes or storing them in the closet, it takes a tremendous amount of extra time. Again, it's something you didn't sign up for, but it will happen unless you hire a maid to do all that stuff for you. But you'll still need to shop for clothes. And when you go shopping and you see a nice shirt and it's double XL and you put it on and it's completely constricting your arms and it turns you into a wrestler. You remember those wrestlers that had these little ropes tied around their arms just to show a little bit of bicep vein? And that's basically what it's going to turn into unless you find a favorite brand, like Under Armour, for example, which matches the arm size to the torso size. So those ones I can still fit. Even if it's a double XL, those still fit nicely. But I used to go to Zara, for example, and get slim fitted double XL shirts. They were perfect before I went on cycle. Then after I went on cycle, my arms couldn't fit into that. And even the regular shirts, because the torso was so wide, it would just look weird. It would just turn that clothes into a poncho. So it's going to be really, really difficult to find clothes that fit nicely and doesn't look like you're wearing a poncho or a tent or, drapes or whatever you want to call it. Because again, some of these triple XL shirts are so long. They're designed for taller people over 2 meters. But if you're a triple XL guy and you're only, like 5'9", 5'8", 5'7", that shirt is going to go to your knees. It looks silly. But this is the stuff you're going to have to deal with as you gain size. Yeah, or you decide to stay a little bit smaller and still be able to get clothes off the rack. Again, it's up to you. Now, a more serious issue that will likely occur is snoring, especially during the off-season when you're trying to gain as much size as possible and you're eating in a caloric surplus and you're slowly gaining a significant amount of muscle mass as well as a little bit of body fat. There's almost no way around it unless you're willing to recomp a little bit slower. At one point, you're going to snore if you weren't snoring before. And that snoring, if left unchecked, might transition into sleep apnea. And of course, sleep apnea occurs when your neck and your chest, your torso is so big and large that it actually constricts and limits your ability to breathe while you're sleeping. It doesn't happen during the day because you're conscious, unless you're on a ton of trembolone. Then people, it sounds like they have sleep apnea too. They're very winded and I'm sure everybody has seen those guys in the real world. So high doses of tren might induce sleep apnea while you're conscious and awake. But if you're very, very large and you keep, your selection of compounds moderate, but you still wake up dizzy, winded, confused, you might want to do a sleep study because it could be that you have sleep apnea and you need a CPAP or an APAP machine to help you breathe while you're sleeping and actually force a little bit of air down your throat, your lungs to help you breathe. So personally, I've never experienced sleep apnea, even at my heaviest of 115 kilos, which is 250 pounds. So it might be that, I'm still safe below 250 pounds, maybe even 260 pounds. I would not experience any sleep apnea, but I'm sure at one point, if I ever wanted to break, it's not a challenge, right? It's not a challenge to give yourself sleep apnea. Yeah? There's much better challenges out there. Let's say I would ever break 290 pounds, 300 pounds. I don't think that's in the cards for me. I'm almost pushing 40 and I have no desire to be that big. But let's say I ever got that heavy, I'm pretty sure I would get sleep apnea and I would do a sleep study to get a CPAP machine or an APAP machine prescribed. Or if they didn't get it prescribed, I would source that by myself. So it's very important to keep track of that as you gain size because the snoring might get so bad that it progresses into sleep apnea. Now, I'm sure a lot of guys experience snoring, especially after a cheat meal. So let's say you eat very, very clean like I do during the week. And then Sunday you eat, a little bit more exorbitantly. You go out, you do the seafood diet. Oh, I see a hamburger, I'm going to eat that. And I see a little bit of ice cream, going to eat that. And I see sushi, I'm going to eat that. And, that's your day of enjoyment, basically. You eat a little bit off the plan, reglycogenate the muscle. Hopefully you don't add too much saturated fat with that. And then when you go to sleep, your stomach is full, pressing your lungs onwards, and you're going to snore. And you probably hold a little bit of water, so your whole face and your neck holds water. You're going to snore. You can easily ask your partner or film yourself while sleeping, not before sleeping, while sleeping. Everybody can do this. If you have a laptop, you put up a webcam, you just start recording and you see how you're responding throughout the night. If you're making a lot of noise, sometimes you have these watches that can track that for you, or like a Fitbit or some of these Apple Watch, I think, can also track how you sleep. So again, if you're gaining a lot of size during the off season, or you're just a much larger guy snoring because you're so big and maybe have potential for sleep apnea, keep track of that because you didn't sign up for it, but it might happen. And I know that when I was at my heaviest 115 kilos, I was snoring every day, regardless of if I had a cheat meal or not. So my wife was not very happy with that and asked me, said, hey, let's keep it there. And even though I was doing cardio every day, 20 to 30 minutes, to train your heart and your entire body to climatize to this ever increasing body weight, the snoring is something you can't really get around with. But when I dropped from 115 kilos to 110 kilos, the snoring went away. And it's only a drop of 5 kilos. So I feel that there's like a threshold of a body weight. And beyond that, you start snoring. And below that, you don't really snore unless you, had a good evening and a good dinner and ate whatever you wanted. And now that I think of it, there might be a little bit of a correlation here between losing insulin sensitivity and snoring. Because when you start snoring, it's usually an indication that you're holding too much water at the end of the day. So let's say you're doing an off season, you're eating your socks off on carbohydrates. And at one point you start snoring because you're gaining a significant amount of body weight. Then what I usually do with my clients, I ask them frequently, I say, are you snoring? Is it bad? Can your partner still sleep? Or can anybody else in the house sleep? Are your dogs, sleeping in the corner of the room because you're scared? It happens. When they start snoring too much, it impairs sleep quality, right? You don't get into deep REM sleep that much anymore, and you notice that the recovery is going down. And then you transition into a mini diet, drop the carbs in half or take them out completely, do 2 weeks of ketogenic dieting. You'll see that the body weight, the overall body weight goes down, the water retention goes down, and within a couple days, the snoring is gone. Even though they only dropped maybe 2, 3, 4% of their body weight, let's say 115 kilos to 110 kilos, which is the case for me when my snoring usually stops. Then 2 weeks later, they go back on their usually carbohydrate meal plan. You increase the carbs again to what they were eating previously, but it takes a while before the snoring returns. It might take another month. So this is a strategy you guys can incorporate. If you do notice that you're snoring a lot because your body weight is too high and you're holding too much water at the end of the day, do a little mini diet, restore insulin sensitivity, allowing you to put those carbohydrates in the right place without holding too much water at the end of the day. And hopefully you'll be snore-free for a couple weeks after that. So keep that in mind. Give that protocol a try. I'm sure your partner will thank you for it. And then the last thing I want to discuss in this video is social anxiety. Now, there's two polar opposites here. People who don't like attention will probably get social anxiety as they get bigger. And again, we're doing it to ourselves. You're getting size, you're getting bigger, You're taking steps further and further away from the general population. And if you don't like attention, you're giving yourself social anxiety or anxiety in general, regardless of which compound you take. Of course, boldenone, maybe trenbolone, or whatever other compound that doesn't sit well with you will exacerbate that, turning to normal anxiety to the point you don't even want to go outside anymore. And then other people might experience the polar opposite. They love the attention. They love it. Everywhere they go, people are staring at them and they feel confident. It gives them a boost. They're like, yes, look at me. Like, I'm huge. I'm shredded. I'm veiny. Worship me. And those guys usually do very well on Instagram. So they love to get their pictures taken. They love to post that online and love to show that around whatever gym they visit. It's a little bit of an exhibitionism, right? You turn into an exhibitionist. And it really depends on your personality, whether you turn into an exhibitionist with your physique, or your physique is giving you social anxiety because, again, you're so much different than everybody else. And I think it also depends on how you look at yourself. So when you look at yourself and you feel confident, you're happy with how you look, and you know that your physique matches the general consensus of what is considered pretty in bodybuilding or physique sports, then you probably don't experience so much social anxiety. And when you're so full of yourself, or you're meeting the standard, I mean, you have people that too, right? They think they're the shiznit, but they don't really match the standard. And again, that's why Instagram is there. Somehow they're able to get a following, even though they don't look so good. And you have the guys that look absolutely phenomenal, regardless of what they're doing. They're very photogenic. Wherever they go, they're in the limelight, and it gives them an insane amount of confidence until somebody does a natty or not video. But then they probably transition into social anxiety and bundle up with fear as well. Well, this is social media nowadays, right? So for the guys that do experience social anxiety, your closet is probably going to look like a couple of ponchos. You want to cover up. When you go outside, you don't want the attention. I probably fall into the same category. I like to be huge and strong and freaky in the gym, but as soon as I go out to dinner or a movie or a shopping mall, I just want to blend in to the crowd, which right now I might do. Now I'm only 100 kilos, so I might blend in a little bit easier. But when I'm at my peak off-season shape, 115 kilos, or I'm really in shape, 100 kilos shredded, and you got veins bulging everywhere, I just want to cover up. I just want to be left alone. I just want to be by myself. I don't want the attention from the general population. I do enjoy the attention, I'll be honest. I do enjoy the attention. But I only like that when I'm going to a bodybuilding competition. So let's say you go to the World Championships, you're flooded with compliments, and everybody's very nice. And when they approach you, it's in a positive way because they're all bodybuilders, right? They're all into physique sports. But general population, I feel sometimes you get a little bit of a condescending look, or people are a little bit sometimes disgusted. Again, everybody has their preferences. I can't judge what people like, but they still judge what they like, and they project that on you. So this is unfortunately the world we live in, and you're going to have to deal with that, just like I deal with it as well. So every time I go outside, I prefer to cover up. I don't wear this. I never wear something like this outside. I might show a hint of biceps, some forearms and calves, but I generally stay covered up and keep the exposure of the musculature reasonably moderate. I don't wear anything that's going to highlight that, where, tight tank tops or skinny jeans. We'll save that for a different video. It's not my style. I just like to be by myself whenever I go out, and I don't like the attention. I'll be honest. I don't like the attention. In the gym, it's fine because we're all in the same boat. We're all there to train hard, train insane, and learn and progress our physique. But with the general population, I don't want to deal with it. So it really depends on which person you are. If you're an exhibitionist, or you like to stay to yourself, if you're going to get social anxiety or not. But I think the larger you get, the further you're stepping away from what's generally acceptable as a standard of what a physique should look like. I mean, bodybuilding is not what the general population likes or aspires to be like until they, go to the gym and start developing their physique as well. Then they might want to look like a bodybuilder one day. It's not like it's easy, right? It's not like you get to be a bodybuilder for free unless you have amazing genetics. Well, most of us don't have amazing genetics, unfortunately. So it really depends on you, but it might happen. And you might not be ready for it, but it's something you're going to have to deal with. You can do that by covering up or just counting to 10. Because sometimes you need to. And I think that pretty much covers it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're looking for the best ebooks about bodybuilding pharmacology, head over to my website, VigorousSteve.com/shop. You can find the rates to my services there as well. Oh, and while we're at it, please leave me a like, subscribe if you're not subscribed already. Post a comment, any comment, unless they're very derogatory, I'm going to block you. So nice comments or moderate comments are appreciated. Thank you guys so much. Let's feed the algorithm. If you want to join the Vigorous crew, you know what to do. Like, subscribe. Don't unsubscribe. If you're already subscribed, you don't need to unsubscribe. Just stay subscribed. Hit the notification bell button. Post a comment. Let's feed the YouTube algorithm and get this channel up to 10,000 subscribers. Much appreciated. See you in the next video.